Hey guys, welcome back to my channel with another speed build. And this time we are building in the wonderful Discovery University world of Brychester. I decided to do one of the little townhouse homes because I just couldn't brave doing a dorm or any sort of college situation. So I did what was safe and did one of the townhouses. But I also wanted to do one of the townhouses because I really like the idea of having a little townhouse, like attached home situation, with one of them having a little shop at the bottom of it. So that's also another reason why really wanted to do a townhouse. Obviously, much inspired by the new pack that is now out. I started building this before it was out, but it is currently out, has been out for a, a couple of days now. Uh, Anyways, I was about to say a week, but it came out just Wednesday, which was like literally like 4 or 5 days ago. I don't know, but not that long ago. I don't know if I'm gonna get it right away. I obviously still don't have it because I finished this pack, and by the time that I finished it, the pack was out. But I don't know. I've just been hesitant to buy packs like as soon as they come out. I know for the most part, eventually I do typically get most of the packs, but the last couple of packs I actually haven't gotten. I haven't gotten the Crystal Creations. I have not gotten Life and Death, and I have not gotten Love Struck, which I think all were like the most recent packs that have come out. So I think I'm gonna hold off and wait a little bit. It's a pack that I think I will definitely most likely get eventually, but at the same time, I have not gotten the other packs and I feel okay. Like, I don't feel like I'm missing out too much. So I'll have to see, but I do think that this businesses and hobbies pack is a pack that I would probably use more than the other newer packs. But anyways, back to this build. I obviously wanted it to like because obviously Brychester is very much kind of giving slightly British vibes. So I wanted to try to kind of stick with that theme on how I was building it. So I tried to look up like some like attached British houses and stuff like that. I don't think that my execution is by any means like on par or like, you know, an accurate representation. I cannot pronounce words today, apparently. I don't think that this is like a spot on representation of what a classic British attached home is looking like or anything like that, but I tried my best to kind of use what I had and go and fit the theme as best as I could. So I kind of lost my train of thought again. But I just kind of winged it after I got like the first initial like kind of structure that I wanted to have down. Because I will be honest, I was more so focused on finding and building something that would really suit a coffee shop at the bottom of one of the homes more than I was trying to make sure that it like fit the British aesthetic home, because obviously also with that is there's so many different kinds of houses that you have in every country, especially also in Britain and everything, and it depends on like if it's more a modern home, it's a more traditional older home, and there's different styles and whatnot and everything. So I just went with what I liked for the most part, but I did try initially to use a good bit of just like university and cottage living and stuff, because obviously those packs were very much made with like British stuff, architecture, stuff like that. I don't really know if architecture is a correct term, but it was slightly inspired by that kind of stuff. So I tried my best to kind of use that initially, but then I will be completely honest, this build uses so many packs, also a couple of kits, and so it is not like very friendly in that limited pack kind of way. So be warned that I don't even know how many, but it's probably close to like majority of the packs that I ended up using, except for obviously like, your like really niche things like kids stuff and like whatever that pack is called, and like those really niche weird packs. But most of the expansion packs I think I did end up using. But I wanted to go for like a darker themed kind of vibe in the coffee shop, and I did initially want to have like some like seating right in the front window because I just thought that would look really cool. But just like with the size of the coffee shop, because it's not like that big, it just wasn't fitting very well for what I really had in mind. And then I obviously, as you saw, decided to put in and add in some of the bookshelves. So I was like, oh, well, if I'm going to have bookshelves, and like obviously that means that this coffee shop is like reading friendly, I should probably have a place for people to be able to actually like sit and read. So I decided to make that front area actually into like a little reading nook, which I think actually turned out really cute, and I really like it. Because I wanted the coffee shop, like I said, to have just like very cozy, like very warm kind of vibes where, it's very, it suits, just cuddling up on the couch with a book, with a nice drink, and just vibing for, however long you want. And so that's kind of what I went for initially with this coffee shop. And I pretty much keep this vibe for the rest of I don't really change too much down here. But I do end up changing all of the tables to like bar kind of high top tables. I wanted to have a mix of high top and like the lower top because I think that like makes more sense in general. But I just really like the look of the high top one. So the only like low top tables that I have are the ones that are outside. So, it's not very user or like, friendly in that aspect of things of, people of different abilities being able to get up into high things, but also it's The Sims, so that is even a big factor. But realistically, you obviously would want to have a couple of low top tables so that it's easier for people who may not be able to get into high top tables in there. But for the next little bit, obviously I did, as you can see, kind of do the kitchen in the first home that is obviously going to be the owners of the coffee shop. And I really struggled with doing the interiors of both of the houses just because I really didn't have any sort of idea of what I wanted them to look like going in. At this point, I did still have the intention, at least when I first started doing the kitchen, I still wanted it to be like base game and mainly like Discovery University and stuff like that. But then I realized that I obviously already used a good bit of other packs in the what is it called? The coffee shop anyway. So I kind of figured at that point it doesn't really matter, but I did, obviously, as you can see, I put down a couple of just base game things and university things initially, but all of this, except for like the kitchen, pretty much, is going to end up getting changed. Because at this point, I had already been building for quite a while because I really struggled with getting what I wanted down. Because I cut all of this out, but I really struggled with the floor plan for both of the houses as well. So I end up changing some things I keep, but I struggled a lot with the floor plan. So eventually I kind of just start putting down furniture just to kind of fill in the spaces of what I think it would look, of what I think would look good in each of the areas. But I think I do kind of finish off at least like the main kitchen area, but like the dining area definitely changes and stuff. But I just try to put down as much as I can. But at this point, this is another day that I decided, oh, actually, this is not another day. This is I realized in the middle of trying to furnish the upstairs, I did not include a bathroom in the coffee shop. And I feel like in most establishments, especially establishments where you are either feeding people or giving people drinks, you need to have a bathroom. And also, if you're going to have staff, you probably should have a bathroom. So, like, if your staff is there all day, they have a place to relieve themselves. Even if you are the staff, you should probably still have a bathroom. So I had to change things around. And that's what I was kind of talking about earlier, where I do change the bookshelf situation a little bit, because I obviously did not account for having any space for said bathroom. So I had to kind of make space for it. But it worked out fine. Yes, we don't have as many books, but you know, you can bring your own book too. I will definitely say my favorite part of this build is the coffee shop. I think it just looks really nice. Like I would totally, I'm not a coffee drinker, or I don't even really drink tea or anything. So, but if I were a coffee shop goer, I think I would definitely go to this coffee shop, but I'm not. And then for the other townhouse that is attached, I wanted it to kind of have a slightly more traditional floor plan. And from my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, I've never been to England, so I can't say for sure. I've never lived there, never bought a house there. But from what I've heard, that a lot of times they typically have a more closed floor plan, which, I mean, old houses in America also have closed floor plans as well. But because of that, I decided to try and have a lot of the rooms like shut. And so the only room that has kind of like an archway situation is the dining room and the kitchen. But for everything, every other room, at least in like the living space, I decided to have it like as a more closed off situation. And as you can see, the floor plan, like I said, it's a little hodgepodgey. It's a little, doesn't make much sense, but I kind of just went with it because I couldn't really figure, I wanted them to have like a lot of space for, you know, a good bit of Sims to live in this area, or especially this house in particular, since it didn't have, it's a little bit of a 3-story house. So I figured might as well put as much as we can. And then I also felt like traditionally, from what I've heard, is that the bedrooms in English homes tend to be a little bit smaller. Obviously, like the main bedroom with the full-size bed in this build is huge. It's massive. It probably could have very much been turned into 2 bedrooms, but the hallway situation really didn't suit it being turned into 2 bedrooms. So I just made it a very, very big, large bedroom. But anyways, this is another day where I, you know, started fresh with getting back into the build, but I started off focusing more on this other house. And I just really struggled with figuring out the swatches, because I also wanted to try to use a lot of wallpaper and wallpapers that I normally wouldn't really use, because I don't really typically build houses with wallpaper. But for the downstairs area, I really struggled because a lot of the wallpaper that I liked had the paneling, as you can see here. And the problem with that is the downstairs has platforms. I used tall walls at the downstairs, but then I used platforms to make it so that there were stairs going up to the main floor. And so the paneling on the walls looked funky because it was like cut off, obviously because of the platforms and everything. And so I was getting a little frustrated with that, and I had to kind of just pick wallpapers that were different from what I originally wanted. But I decided to try and like use and do things that I normally wouldn't use, like this purple room. I've never used this wallpaper in any of my builds ever, but I figured like I wanted this room to obviously be like a younger child's room, and I felt like I wanted these bedrooms, especially upstairs, to kind of have the vibe of like the parents or grandparents or whoever are the guardians of these children. They didn't really care too much of what the kids decided to have their rooms looking like up here. because also like they have that little corner that's kind of like a den kind of area or whatever. So I felt like they were giving them freedom to kind of just do whatever they wanted in the bedrooms. And so they were okay with like the purple concoction in this bedroom. But they still had to have their pink bathroom, obviously, you know? So that's kind of the vibes that I was going for with this upstairs area, that the kids kind of had more control of what was going on over here more than like the parents. Or I kind of felt like the people were like either like grandparents or at least older, so like a little bit more traditional vibes or whatever, that were the owners of this house with the kids and everything. But you know, you decide what you want if you use this build. And then for this room, I struggled a little bit too, because I kind of wanted it to have like a little bit of like darker colors and everything. And a lot of the things that I liked weren't meshing well together, so I struggled. I really don't like the carpet that I put, or the rug that I put in that room, but I was so tired of trying to figure out rugs because I struggled with picking out the rugs for like every room. It was just a struggle for me for some reason with this build. And I also struggled with finding smaller side tables, because a lot of the bedrooms and whatnot that I build, and rooms in general that I decide to have side tables in, they're smaller, and so it's harder to fit in like the other side tables that I would normally use, because they were just too big. And I never realized how big some of these side tables in the game were until obviously I was building this and realizing that none of them were fitting. So now I've moved on down to the second, or technically, yeah, the second floor. And for this room, I kind of wanted it to be kind of like maybe like a teenage girl where, you know, she cares about like getting fancy smancy and whatnot. And so I kind of wanted to use a couple of bits and pieces that like kind of gave off that vibe. So I used like the modern luxe vanity situation and just like more like lighter, brighter colors and like pink and whatnot. And again, obviously you can see I struggle with the rug, just classic struggling constantly. And I tried to use that bed because I believe that bed was the Discovery University bed, but I just hated all of the swatches. So I ended up using the I can't think of what it's called, the magic kit, or not, it's not a kit, but you know, that pack bed. And then I decided to add in like a couch and a chest table, because they just had so much room and I didn't know what else to put in here. So, and I didn't want to do like a whole closet situation. So we put a couch and a chest table. So this is their like older people's little space that they can have. And also this area is also the older people's space. So they have a nice little TV, a nice little cozy fire. It's a little old school vibe. It doesn't have like, you know, your fancy video games and music and everything. It's just keeping it simple, which I'm just now realizing I don't think I put anything as far as like a bookshelf in this build or in this house, which I totally should have included like some sort of bookshelf situation in this house. Especially since I felt like I wanted this to be like a house that, like, you know, you had older people who kind of just chilled, because reading is a great way to chill, obviously. And I felt like, obviously, you could not have a classic British home without having tea and a kettle and everything. So I decided to add that kind of clutter to the kitchen. And that's kind of the only little bit of clutter that I added, because I got to the point where I was also kind of thinking this build not only has already taken me forever to do, but it's also starting to probably add up, because I really wasn't paying attention to the price. And not that it really fully matters, but I didn't want it to be like ridiculously expensive, you know? So I kind of tried to slow down a little bit. And in reality, this house or this home in general probably isn't the most functional, because obviously you would need to kind of use, I think, like the rental lot type. But I think that in order to have a business, you have to use another lot type, I think. But don't quote me on this, because I have not watched that many videos on how the game or the new pack is supposed to function, and I obviously don't have it, so I don't know for sure how functional this lot is, because obviously it's intended for at least two families and a business, but I don't know if you can do that. I don't know. You might be able to, but I feel like I doubt it, because that would just be probably a little extra complicated. And that just gives me the vibes that like there'd be so many glitches and stuff with that. But anyways, I'm pretty much kind of finishing off with this build. I think honestly, for someone like me who's not really used to building that kind of way, or like doing furniture and decor in that kind of style, I think it turned out pretty well. And it kind of still had that like cozy kind of a warm vibe that I wanted this whole build to kind of have anyways. So I think it turned out pretty well. But I kind of struggled with this one because obviously initially, as you can see, like the first furniture that I placed down was a lot of the Discovery University stuff that especially was in the Bridechester side of the builds and stuff like that. Because it's more like of the classic style. But I just felt like because the downstairs like coffee shop was a little bit more on the contemporary, more modern side, I felt like the house and the home probably should be as well, because obviously that must be the style of the owners of this coffee shop. So I decided to change it around a lot. And I just used a lot of the packs that kind of have that more contemporary and more modern style. So like Dream Home Decorator, I used a good bit of the Book Nook stuff as well, which I felt like, you know, I already used a good bit of Book Nook for the downstairs coffee shop anyway, so might as well use some more of it and keep with the theme. And there are some things that I just realized that like I just never have noticed in the game before. So, you know, that is one thing when I am trying to do things that are out of my comfort zone. It makes me pay attention to things that I like never really like noticed before. I also kind of struggled with figuring out like what kind of flooring that I wanted in this house, because I just wasn't liking the original flooring that I had, because I think I originally had the cottage living flooring, which like obviously gives it a slightly like older, more rustic kind of vibe. And I also struggled with this staircase because I did not know what railing fit with it. I've been struggling a lot with staircases and like finding good railings and matching railings and everything. It's just been a struggle for me for some reason. Couldn't tell you why. And then in this bedroom, I think I ended up using a lot of the Dream Home Decorator, which I feel like I've been trying to use less of Dream Home Decorator because I do use it so much, but it just makes life easier. It, you know, things just match really well and they have a lot of options and everything. And I really wanted it to have like the same bed frame, but with like different what is it called, like bedding and everything. And I went through so many different beds, and I wanted the bed frame to be like a little bit darker. I didn't want it to be like a light bed frame, and I just could not find that many dark bed frames that had more than one swatch. It just was a struggle. So I just ended up going for the, you know, tried and true Dream Home Decorator. And then for this room, I ended up using a lot of the eco lifestyle things, because that also kind of gave like the contemporary, you know, vibe that I was going for. And it just worked out pretty well with that. And I didn't even intend to go with like for that specifically. It just kind of ended up happening. But I think it turned out pretty well for this house too, even though I really struggled for whatever reason with kind of filling this space up. I tried to make sure that like all of the homes had a little bit of like activity things in it, but I know this one, it was kind of lacking I feel like this one isn't as like cozy. I feel like you can totally tell that I was kind of sort of being burnt out by this build. So I think like at this build altogether, I ended up taking almost like 6 hours to do. So it took me a really long time for whatever reason. I don't know why, but I think I was like being very detailed with in the beginning on like what I wanted, and I was struggling to figure out and find what I wanted, and so I kind of just started to get burned out from it a little bit. But as you can see, I'm pretty much at the point where I'm just adding little bits and pieces of decor to kind of make it a little bit more homey, and also realizing different things that I've forgotten, like a sink, but you know, I realized it, so there is a sink. There are probably things that I definitely missed. I'm pretty sure in this build, I did not include an outside trash. I didn't realize that until like after the fact. Because I also realized that I did not have mailboxes. And I did add that before I uploaded it to the gallery. But I did not realize that I did not have an outside trash can until after I uploaded it to the gallery. So that will be something that you probably will need to add in yourself, because clearly my brain wasn't functioning enough to do it. But I think as far as the interior, me putting up some of these curtains is the last little bit that I kind of do. I didn't end up putting curtains in all of the bedrooms and places, especially in the second house, because like as you can see here, the downstairs, because of the ones that I decided to use, it just really wasn't working very well. So I just decided to say forget about it when it came to putting them in like downstairs dining and kitchen area and everything. So for the most part, this build is pretty much over, but I do a little bit of landscaping. I didn't do much landscaping at all, honestly. I put a couple of plants outside the building of like the coffee shop, and then I did like a little bit of like bushes and shrubbery for the main house. And that's about it. But that's pretty much all I did for this build. I think, like I said, I think it turned out pretty well for what it was. I am now realizing that I never changed the roofing to match. So there's 2 different kinds of roofing. But, you know, it's okay. It's not perfect. I'm only human. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed, regardless of a few mistakes that I made that I'm just not realizing. But I will catch you guys next time. Bye!